We're going to talk all things baseball. Last month we revealed to you our second summer book club, Read Calico Joe by John Grisham. Today we're discussing the book with some of our book club members, Tracy Werniewski here, and we also have Ashley Hicks from Barnes & Noble TCC at MacArthur Center. Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you.
Welcome to Hampton Roads Show, Tracy. You brought your Ocean Lakes t-shirt with you to support the Dolphins. Good for you.
Dolphins.
All right, so this is what we got. I'm going to wrap this up into two parts. Calico Joe is a baseball story about forgiveness and redemption. I will tell it in two parts. The story is told in past and present tense by Paul Tracy. Paul tells the story of growing up the son of a major league pitcher, Warren Tracy. Warren Tracy was nearing the end of his career with the New York Mets. He was known as a hard-throwing beanball artist. He was a drinker. He wasn't faithful to his wife. He abused Paul, his mother, and his sister. But even so, young Paul worshipped his father because he was a star in the major leagues. And Paul was playing Little League Baseball at the time. Well, in the summer of 1973, the Chicago Cubs had 2 injuries to their first baseman. So they called up a young player from Double-A named Joe Castle from Calico Rock. In his first major league game, Joe hit 3 straight home runs and had a chance for a 4th. But instead, he was smart and laid down a bunt to win the game. He would go on to the hottest start ever by a rookie and take the baseball world by storm, leading the Cubs to first place in the division. He instantly became a hero to many, including young Paul Tracy. But eventually, Joe Castle and the Cubs would have to face Warren Tracy and the Mets. And young Paul Tracy knew that something was going to happen, and it did. Joe Castle hit a home run against Warren in his first at-bat, and young Paul knew what was coming next. Castle's next at-bat, Warren beamed Castle in the head, sending him into a coma and ending his baseball career. So that is the first part of the book, and that is where we bring you guys in. And we'll start with you, Tracy. You get to know what Warren is like. You get to know about a young, promising player in Joe Castle and poor Paul Tracy. What did you think of the characters?
Well, instantly you did not like the father Warren at all, just because of the way he treated his son. Even at Little League Baseball games, they stated that he would tell his son to hit the players if, they did a good hit. So right away you disliked the father. You were excited for Joe. He was not cocky when he hit all those home runs. Of course, when he hit the 4th hit and laid down a bunt, you right away said he's a team player, yay. And it was an exciting time. For Paul, your heart bled for him because you knew. And he even said when he hit when his father hit Joe, he knew it was going to happen before it happened. So your heart breaks for the son.
Now go into a little bit more in depth, Ashley, about the relationship between Paul and his father Warren.
Mostly, Paul is just trying to make his dad love him, want him. He obviously he looks up to his dad, and he's trying to do really good. But he gets to the point with the yelling and the beating and the telling him to being these other kids that he's just done. He gets to the point where he doesn't want to idolize his dad anymore because he sees the other side.
Yeah, and Carrie, Paul is an 11-year-old boy at this time, caught in the middle of something really terrible.
Yeah, and I think John Grisham does a good job of making you kind of putty in his hands. He wants you to despise Warren, and you do. Yes. He wants you to like Joe Castle, and you do. I mean, you can't help it. And he wants you to feel for Paul, and you just really do for that conflict that he's there. And it speaks to how often I think children are so willing to meet their parents more than halfway. They really want to be able to idolize their parents. And it's heartbreaking when, even a child runs out of spin when it comes to their own parent. They have to accept that, they're a piece of crap in this point. In this.
Hey now. All right, yes he was. But that is the first part of the book. What really makes this book special is the second part about the forgiveness and redemption that follows. We're taking a quick break, but when we come back, we'll have more on our Summer Book Club discussion on Calico Joe by John Grisham. All right, now back to our discussion with Ashley, Tracy, and Carrie. When we left you, young Joe Castle had a promising baseball career end on one pitch. What follows in the book Calico Joe is what makes the book very special. 30 years later, Paul Tracy learns that his father, Warren, is dying of cancer, so Paul takes it upon himself to convince his father to face Joe Castle and apologize for what he did. The meeting did take place on a baseball field, and Joe Castle was gracious and accepting of the apology. Warren Tracy would die soon after. Nobody went to his funeral except Joe Castle. So much more went into the end of this book, and it was intertwined throughout the whole book. The end, it all led up to the end. Tracy, how did you like the ending?
I was very surprised by the ending. I was surprised that the son kind of blackmailed the father into going. So that surprised me, and the father was willing to go. And when Joe immediately accepted the apology and was gracious enough to take pictures with him, I thought that just shows you how remarkable forgiveness is, that he was willing to forgive him. And then when he showed up at the funeral, that really surprised me because I thought it was over and done then.
And Ashley, what was neat about the ending when they did come together was the fact that Warren, he was trying to convince him, I did it on purpose. I lied for 30 years. He was really bearing his soul.
Right, he really did. He really, I think Paul really got to him in that he wanted the world to know that Warren really did do it on purpose, and he would die with peace if he went and apologized, and he could go to the grave knowing that he finally made peace with Paul.
Did that change your opinion of Warren?
No.
I had a hard time believing, like,
No.
because I think John Grisham did such a good job of painting Warren as a person, I had a very hard time believing he would really do that. I had a very easy time believing Joe Castle would be gracious, that Joe Castle would go to the funeral. I loved the character of the editor of the little paper who kind of helped make it happen for him. But in my experience, I wish John Grisham wrote more about what made Warren want to do it for Warren, because I don't believe that he would have done it for Paul. Or I didn't get the idea from John Grisham that he was struggling with it at all. I don't think he was worried about dying in peace or having any regret.
I think there could have been more character development with all the characters. But at the very end, when Joe Castle brought out the letter that was sent from Paul, that was a nice touch, wasn't it, Tracy?
Well, and the letter was something that the son sent a week or two after the accident, after the beaming. So, you know, Joe kept that for 30-some years, so that meant a lot. But isn't it funny that the father also told Paul that he could still publish the book even after he was gone? And I'm thinking, is he just trying to keep publicity with himself, make him known again? Is the father really apologetic, or does he want his name back out there? Because you do dislike Warren so much.
Overall, what'd you think? Did you like the book?
I like anything with baseball, so yes.
And you're a baseball fan, but do you have to be a baseball fan to like this book?
No, I don't think so. I think it's a great story, and it was well written, and it was a quick read, and it kind of reminds me of another, you know, we were talking about how this is a departure from the topic that John Grisham, the legal thrillers that he usually writes about. Another little book of his, Skipping Christmas, completely different, but it's a great little read, great story.
All right, Ashley, what do you think? Is this going to be a good movie one day?
Yes, I think that I think it's important to know really how Joe was affected. I mean, he had to wear sunglasses, and he walked with a limp and all of
He had
that.
a stroke.
Yeah, he had the stroke, but I think it will be a really good movie, and I would go see it.
Well, it's a baseball story that usually gets made into a movie, and John Grisham did a great job with it. And I just want to thank you, Tracy and Ashley and Carrie as well, for joining us today and wrapping up this book. I enjoyed it. Up next, we'll reveal our third book in our summer book club. What will that be? Stick around and find out.